Welcome to this week's episode of the Prep Athletics Podcast. I'm proud to have on my friend, Christina Batastini, the head coach at the St. Andrews School in Barrington, Rhode Island. Christina was a Parade All-American, Nike All-American, New England Player of the Year back in high school, and she chose to play at Stanford. And her first year there, they went to the Final Four, and she won Pac-10 titles 3 or 4 years. And after that, she got to play professionally all over Europe. Came back and coached at Brown, coached in high school, and I think she's now entering her 7th season as a girls coach at the St. Andrews School. And we get into it. We talk about her basketball, playing for a legendary coach at Stanford, the pros and cons of playing in Europe, how she talks to families about their recruiting goals and what she's going to do for them, what it takes to be a D1 guard, some of the best players she's coached against. Doesn't matter what level you play at in the prep school world in New England, and more. So we really get into it. It's great having her on. Our dog Maple barks a little bit in it. She's coughing a little bit with the cold, but that's how podcasts work, right? So you get the full flavor of it. If you like what you hear, please be sure to subscribe on all the major podcasting platforms. Subscribe to us on YouTube so you don't miss a beat and you get bonus content. And go to prepathletics.com to sign up for our newsletter, which comes out every month. So with that, enjoy my podcast with Coach Christina Batastini here today. Welcome to the Prep Athletics Podcast. This is Cory Heights.
Some battles. I'm not sure if they got us. If they did, maybe.
So you will get better as a player during that year.
So it was kind of exciting. Like, oh yeah, somebody wants me.
Christina, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Cory, how's it going? Glad to be here.
Good. Glad we finally got you on after years of requesting you, and we finally got some time on your busy schedule. So it's a pleasure to have you here. And I want to start out by asking you about kind of your background. You grew up in Rhode Island, and you became a really, really good basketball player. In fact, winning the New England Player of the Year award before going to Stanford. So let's step back. How did you get into basketball, and how did you get so good?
I'll try to be pretty concise, but it's a rather long story. So my father was a youth basketball coach. He coached basketball for 68 years before he retired. So I was pretty much, I grew up in the gym, had the opportunity to watch him coach. I'd played for him for years as a youth basketball player. And I think it was kind of a collision of two things. One, he was an excellent coach. And two, I happened to be a pretty sound athlete. So it was an interesting twist of events for him. He coached 68 years, and I think I was probably his only player that went on to play at like a really high level of Division I. So it's sort of this like gift that we were both given. And then after I played for him at the youth level, I went on to Classical High School, which is a public high school out of Providence. And as you mentioned, New England Player of the Year, Nike Parade All-American, which ultimately allowed me to earn a full scholarship to Stanford University. I was there from 96 to 2000. In 96, we were the number 1 team in the country. We went into the NCAA tournament with only 1 loss to Old Dominion. And ultimately, we lost in the Final Four in double overtime to Old Dominion. But that was an unbelievable experience. So I think 3 of my 4 years at Stanford were Pac-10 champions. Following my collegiate career, I played professionally overseas, started in Italy. Then I went to Scandinavia, Norway, and Sweden. Then I finished up my professional career in Switzerland. My last year was pretty amazing. I was actually a player coach, kind of like Bob Cousy back in the day. So I not only coached the team in French, but I also played for the team during the games. At the time, at 26, I thought I was old. But now looking back, I realized that was quite the responsibility. And then once I got home, when I was 26, I started coaching at Brown University. I followed that up by immediately after a year. I didn't think that college coaching was for me. So I got into I got into coaching at the prep level. So I was at the Lincoln School for about 6-7 years. Then I got my master's degree from Harvard. I took a little break when I had my daughter, and then I started coaching again when she was 5. And I've coached her all the way through. She's currently a junior. She plays for me here at St. Andrews. So my coaching career is kind of like an inverted pyramid. I started out coaching professionally. I went all the way down to 5-year-olds. Now I'm back at a pretty high level prep school. So it's been a very cool experience. And in the last 3 years, I've had the opportunity to coach at the national team level with the United States Olympic program. So I am the 3x3 U23 women's national team coach, which again is very different than 5-on-5. But I would think if you would ask me like some of my proudest moments as a player and a coach, I would say that coaching with USA Basketball is definitely my number one achievement.
Love it. I'm going to step back in some of the things you said
Sure.
there.
I'm sorry. That was a long answer.
That's awesome. I love it. You helped, get me going on some of these questions here. You chose Stanford, but you being the caliber player you were, I'm sure you had other amazing options out there. Who were some of the other final schools you were down to before you ultimately chose the Cardinal?
So Stanford got in late. I wouldn't say under recruited. Coming out of Rhode Island, we don't produce, or back then we don't produce a lot of like high level Division I players. So I think there was a reputation that like I couldn't do it. Probably not until my junior year did people recognize that maybe I could play Division I. So I was being recruited by like high academic, Ivy League, Patriot League schools, and then Stanford saw me pretty late. I believe it was April of my junior year. I went to the USA Basketball. I don't even remember what it's called. They don't have it anymore. Olympic Festival tryouts. Ironically, they were at Old Dominion, and that's when Coach VanDerveer saw me play. So they saw me spring of junior year. Prior to that, I was looking at Big East schools, Villanova, Providence, Wake Forest, Tulane, Boston College. So my last five was Providence, Boston College, Wake Forest, Tulane, and then Stanford. And again, Stanford came in late. So I wanted to go to a full scholarship, high academic institution. I actually really wanted to go to Harvard. Both of my parents were teachers. And then in terms of the aid package, it didn't come back where we needed it to be. So that's where I focused more on the high academic full scholarship Division I's.
Yeah, absolutely. And then playing at Stanford, I mean, you played for a legendary coach. What'd you take away from her during your time there?
I think that my greatest takeaway was her level of preparation. Our practices were incredibly intense. And if you didn't show up every single day, absolutely focus on what we were trying to do, it was unacceptable. So her level of, what's the word I'm looking for? Her expectation level was super high. I mean, there were, I'm talking about taking a day off. You couldn't take a breath off. Also the way in which she was one of the first coaches I played for that who was absolutely obsessed with film. So she'd go home at night and watch hours of film. So I think the one thing I learned from playing at Stanford was the degree of diligence that you need if you want to play at that high level. And we're not talking like average high level. We're talking you want to be in the top 10 in the United States. She really pushed us in ways that I had not yet encountered, especially coming from Rhode Island in a small place.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's just that experience you had of those 4 years just was probably unlike most people. So it's cool to see that. But, you mentioned your pro career, and you hear some people, right, on the men's and women's side that have some just really tough places they go to play professionally. And you kind of went to the other end and played in amazing places your whole professional career. So what were the best parts of playing internationally, and what were some of the worst parts or most challenging of playing internationally?
So I was really fortunate my first year in Italy. Obviously, I have an Italian last name, so they thought that they'd be able to get me Italian citizenship, which I was really close. So that's how I ended up in Italy. I played the second half of the year. I went out there in December. That was the first time I ever missed Christmas. And then following Italy, when I was unable to attain Italian citizenship, which would have completely changed the outcome of my professional career, because then I could have played as a European player. And then heading to Norway, Sweden, Switzerland, I think the one thing that I took away most is, the contract may read a certain way, but upon arrival, everything is very different. It's not the same apartment. It's not the same car. It might not even be a car. It is not. Oftentimes, pays you don't get paid a certain month, especially in women's basketball when the amount of money wasn't really significant enough to make a living. Like you really had to love the game. And I was fortunate as a child. My mom, again, was an educator. She was a high school English teacher, but she was huge in terms of like education through traveling. So starting at the age of 8 all the way in through 14 until my athletic career became, pretty impossible to travel, she took me with her. I was her little travel companion. So I was accustomed to traveling overseas in ways that I think some young women like don't have that experience. So when I got overseas and things became difficult, I loved the game so much that I just persisted and stayed with it, and made it through. Although I will tell you a funny story. When I was in Norway, right before the the holiday break, I did get called in by the committee, and I was sent home because I shot the ball too much.
Come on, American.
Yeah, and I was there. Honestly, I was trying to pad my stats a little bit so I could get out of Norway and get to a better situation, which ultimately I did. I ended up playing in Sweden, but yeah, I got fired playing in Norway. At the time, it was not funny, but now looking back, it was a pretty interesting experience. And then the other thing that's interesting that I had to learn as a young person, if you are being paid to play and your team goes out and you win a game and you score 12 points. After the game, you're out with the team, you're out with the committee, everyone's buying, they're buying you drinks, you're having a great time, you're going to dinner. If you lose a game and as a foreign player, you score 28, they're trying to fire you the next day. So for me, it was like week to week, that pressure of not only performing, but also getting that win was something that I hadn't experienced prior to playing overseas. Because they're really reactive. So you could have a great game, your team loses, doesn't matter. You didn't do enough, and we're gonna go try to find a better foreign player that can take your spot.
I love that you say that because you and I pitch foreign players all the time about
Right,
coming to the U.S. to learn the U.S. culture and style of play.
right.
And there you had to learn that style of play and culture from them to keep your job. So it's
Yeah,
just
yep,
interesting.
yep. And
And
it was
do
funny
you know,
because each country was different. Like when I first got to Italy, I was coming out of a system like Stanford. It was very system driven, and it was you played defense, you rebounded, you moved the basketball. You were, limited your dribbles. You weren't seeking your own offense. That's how you got in the game there. And if you turned it over, forget it. You're sitting down. So I get to Italy, and a couple weeks into my time there, the head coach calls me over, and he's like, they called me Kri, and they're like, Kri, like you're good. You shoot, like you defend, you rebound, you pass. And he goes, but you must shoot score. You must shoot score. And I'm like, is this guy telling me to like pervert like in American standards, you want me to gun. Like you every time I get it, you want me to score. And that was his message. Then I went to, Scandinavia, and it was more of a climate where, everything was even, right? I don't know if it had anything to do with like the socialist background, but it
right?
was, you know, everything was like, no, you gotta share the basketball. And we played even the Americans who were being paid to play, we played half games. It was a wild experience. Then we went to Switzerland. Then I went to Switzerland, and it was sort of that nice balance where, you're competitive, but that's when it came into play where, like, if you're not playing, if we're not winning, we are shipping you out and finding someone better.
What a
Yeah,
mess, but a fun experience, right?
yeah, it was amazing at the time. I was very emotionally and like obviously like if you play basketball at that level in the way that I grew up, I was very like emotionally involved in my professional career. Now looking back, it's just a story that I get to tell, like my daughter and my players. I've got another very interesting story. My first year in Switzerland, I think we lost 2 games the entire season. And then right before the playoffs, they replaced me with a player from the Ukraine. So I had to sit on the bench during the entire playoffs in order to receive my salary and watch another girl play in my spot during the playoffs after we'd only lost 2 games. Ultimately, the team did not advance and did not win the Swiss championship. So it was just wild. It was just a really bizarre. I'm like, you have one player the entire year, and right before the playoffs, you're going to switch out the foreigner because you don't think that that one player you thought you could do better after you've developed a chemistry and sort of a sense of how to play together. So that those kind of things happened in Europe that at a young age were shocking. But now looking back, I'm like, of course, like that makes sense.
Do you know that happened in the NBA? Chris Webber, right? One NBA All-Star, leader of the Kings. He was out all season, maybe a season and a half with a micro fracture, and he had surgery. And my cousin was playing on the Kings at the time, and they were like the top team in the NBA, right? And right near the playoffs as the number 1 seed, Weber's healthy, but he hadn't played in a year and a half. So do you bring him back and screw up the chemistry, or you're paying him all
Right.
this money? Do you put him in? Do you keep him out or not? They brought him back, screwed up the chemistry,
Yeah.
and a number 1 team in the NBA was bounced in the second round. So it does happen even here at the highest levels. So it's just, that's the beauty of sports, though, right? Is
Right.
just
Especially
that
when
chess
you're
playing.
you're being paid to play. It's a business at that point. So
Yeah. When you coached at Brown, obviously the Ivy League is a league a lot of prep school players want to go to. What were your takeaways from being in the Ivy League?
So I was at Brown 2004 to 2005. I can tell you my first experience walking in. I knew the coach for a long time. She recruited me out of high school. She eventually became a really close friend of my dad, a family friend. And I walked in the first day, and this is when I'm going to date myself, VHSs, right? There were like hundreds of VHSs stacked in the corner.
Okay.
And they were like, Coach Batastini, your job for the next 2 weeks is to watch those VHS tapes and tell us if anyone who's interested in Brown is actually good enough to play here. And my standards were not appropriate,
Right.
because there were a bunch of kids that actually sent us their tape that ended up playing at Harvard and winning an Ivy League championship. And one of the assistants after the fact was like, "Who reviewed this tape? Like, who said this kid wasn't any good?" And I'm just like, "May have been me. Sorry, it may have been me." It was a wild experience. That was when the women's basketball recruiting calendar was vastly different than it is now. So the entire month of July was an open window. So we recruited every single day. So as a 26-year-old, I was recruiting the West Coast because of my connections, having played at Stanford. That would resonate more with recruits. So I was sent out west to recruit in Oregon, Washington. There was also a big tournament in Las Vegas, and then I kind of made my way back across the country. So we were tasked and this was before like the internet and all the things that we have at our fingertips now. I was watching half games from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for basically like 31 days straight. I midway through, I remember I had one of those Razor like flip phones, and I was talking to my sister, and I was like, "I'm seeing basketball demons. Like, I can't even watch these games." And everything was just so you watch these games, and we had a system with 5 different colors, with pluses and minuses. Then you'd get back to the office after being a month on the road. You'd have to input it all into the database, and then you'd have to call their schools and ask for their transcripts because we didn't know who was academic and who wasn't. So it was a major challenge as a young coach to recruit at that level. But the upside was when we did start practice, the players were so like high intellectual, high IQ. They were very, very easy to coach. They were tell it once kids. They were excited to be at Brown. The campus itself, the community at Brown. My father went there. My grandfather went there. I coached there. My daughter's father coached there. So we have a really strong connection to the Brown community, and it was an enjoyable experience. It just wasn't for me at that age. I think if I had maybe started coaching later, or started coaching at a full scholarship school where we weren't recruiting everyone we were seeing, it would have been a little bit more enticing for me to stay at the collegiate level. But I love the Ivy League. It's obviously I'm from New England. It's where I wanted to go to school. If financially we could have made it work. So it was a great first stepping stone into coaching, like within the American ranks.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. So a lot of players you and I deal with want to go to the Ivy Leagues. What do they need to know about the Ivy Leagues they might not know? Like, you have the inside scoop from being there. You deal with coaches from that league right now. Like, what is something kids don't realize or parents don't realize about the Ivy League that you think they should?
That's interesting. So much has changed. It's been over 20 years since I coached at that level.
But you're
Which
still
is really-
dealing with them on
It's
a daily
really
basis.
frightening to say that out loud because I don't see myself as being 20 years away from coaching at Brown. I think the first thing people need to recognize, especially now, is that the Ivy League level of basketball is legitimate, like Division I high level. I think back in the day, maybe even when I was in high school, there was sort of this assumption that if you played at the Ivy League, you were low Division I. That is not true. That is absolutely not true. Go watch an Ivy League practice, go watch an Ivy League game. You have to be an exceptional basketball player to play at that level, like, period. That's it. Academically, I think they do a really good job of balancing the pressures of athletics and academics in ways that maybe some higher level Division I programs don't do. So while it may seem like a daunting task to play high level Division I basketball and at the same time balance the academics and the stresses, they have sort of safeguards in place where their student athletes, they're not practicing as much. They do have, like, I believe they have, like, more time during exam periods. So I think it is manageable. But I also think that whatever rumor is out there about the Ivy League as being, like, softer or easier or not as athletically high level, it's completely incorrect. And I think it is a fantastic conference. And, if I had a choice where a lot of my high school players would play, I would have them play in the Ivy League.
Gotcha. Love it. You're now at St. Andrews School in Rhode Island, Barrington, Rhode Island. We've worked on a lot of players. Obviously, Mike
Yep.
Hart has been on the podcast. He's a great friend of the program. For those that don't know about your school, give us a pitch on St. Andrews as a school and your basketball program there.
Sure. So St. Andrews is a private school. We are sort of half boarding and half day. We're located in Barrington, Rhode Island, which is about 20 minutes from Providence, which, by the way, is an amazing city. If you haven't visited, you should definitely visit. We're an hour from Boston and about 3 hours from New York. So in terms of location and, like, recruitment, if you come here as a student athlete, we're really in a perfect location for those Ivy Leagues, the Patriot League. We have great, the NESCAC. We just have a bunch of conferences and schools surrounding our campus that are high level athletic and academics. I would say that the basketball tradition here started when Coach Mike Hart got here. He's been here 32 years. He's produced 178 college players, which he just reminded me about recently. So he started the program on the men's side. He sent 5 guys to the NBA. When I was in high school and then when I came home and I was coaching at Brown, St. Andrews men's basketball, boys basketball, however you want to call it, they were a national name. So he took a very small school in terms of the basketball program and put them on the map. Literally, like, 8 years ago, I got the call from Mike. We're from Rhode Island. Everybody knows each other. So he was a good friend of my brother's. He actually did the scorebook. So when I was playing high school basketball as a freshman, he was on, like, the score table. So I'm like 14, 15 years old, running around playing at Smithfield High School, and Coach Mike Hart is sitting there doing the scorebook. So I've known him forever. He gave me a call 8 years ago and said, "Hey, we want to build the girls program to be, like, on the same level as the guys program. Would you be interested?" And I said, absolutely. When I was at the Lincoln School for 7 years, we played against St. Andrews, and I saw their potential. They had invested a little bit more on the guys' side at that time, and I was so excited 8 years ago when they decided, let's do this with the girls. So the team moved up to AA, which was the highest level in New England at the time. We are now AAA. And I would contest that it is the best, or arguably the best, league in the Northeast. Every single game we are playing against teams that have 3 to 4, could be more, Division I players. McDonald's All-Americans, Carolyn Ducharme from UConn, Aaliyah Boston from South Carolina are some of the big names that have come out of our conference. Last year, we played a team that had a player going to Kentucky who was a McDonald's All-American, a player going to Vanderbilt, a player committed to Providence College, a player committed to Colgate, and then 3 or 4 other younger players who have a number of Division I scholarship offers. Our schedule is a national schedule. So when I compare it to how I grew up in my high school, like, our games were probably 30-minute drives. We will go to Virginia, Arizona, New York, New Jersey, So we go to a lot of the high level showcases that other schools aren't able to go to. So we're NEPSAC AAA, but we're actually not part of a smaller league. We're allowed to play 30 games. So we're required to play 14 of those against AAA teams. The other 16, we can play against whoever we want. And that's where I like to challenge our players and myself and put us out there so we can get the maximum exposure. So this is my 7th season. So in the 6 seasons that I've been here, every single player that's come through the door has gone on to play collegiate basketball, mostly at the Division I level. But we have Division IIs and some Division IIIs. The Division IIIs have all been high academic. And I think we're able to achieve that because of our scheduling and also because of the nature of being at a private school like St. Andrews. I'm a huge proponent of playing multiple sports. But if our basketball players choose not to play in the fall, we do have like a comprehensive 11-week preseason conditioning, lifting, and open gyms that we offer. Our season goes from the 2nd week in November until the 2nd week in March. In the spring, we connect them with the higher level AU programs. So anyone who comes here, whether they're from Canada or Spain or Germany, we connect them with the best programs in New England. So in the spring, they can play AAU with those programs and continue to get seen. I just think St. Andrews, in terms of like the academics and the basketball piece, it's a really unique place. I think if players come here and they are self-starters and, if they are really aggressive in pursuing what they want, you can get it here. We have 2 gyms that are available all the time. We've got a brand new weight room that is also almost available all the time to them. And it's a relaxed campus environment, small class sizes. I think the teachers here are absolutely fantastic. I talked a little bit about my academic background. Both of my parents were educators, went to Stanford and Harvard. My daughter goes to school here, and if this weren't a place that I believed in terms of the academics and the teachers and the culture that they've set in their classrooms, like I wouldn't be here. So I just think it's a fantastic prep school environment that a lot of people don't know about, but they probably should.
Yeah, and we've talked about that, me, you, other girls coaches,
Yeah.
is how do we let folks outside of New England know that this option
Right.
exists, right? And mind you, there's prep schools, other prep schools for girls that are high level outside of New England, a couple, but like it's just letting them know. And then the families you do talk to from outside of New England, are they finding you? Are you finding them? Or is your team mostly New England players?
It's been a combination. So when you mentioned the prep school thing, it's a real that is real. I travel a lot with USA Basketball, whether it's I'm going overseas or I'm staying within the United States, and I've lectured a few times, with USA Basketball to other coaches. And when I introduce myself as a prep coach, a lot of coaches are like, "Well, is that higher than varsity? Is that a level below varsity?" And then I have to explain that prep basketball for me and for us means that we offer a post-grad year, which is something that people kind of from outside this region don't really understand.
Right.
So we can take players who have already graduated high school for an additional year, and for whatever needs the player may have. It could be academics, it could be injury. But I've had teams in the past that are like, have a couple of 20-year-olds and 19-year-olds on a high school team. But we're able to give that 5th year to student athletes, which is unique. There are only a few schools in New England that offer that. It's also become pretty normalized here in New England to reclass. So even if you are academically sound, socially sound, and you're not injured, a lot of players will reclass. And reclassing has become pretty standard here at St. Andrews as well. So I kind of lost track a little bit with that answer. But yeah, it's just people don't really understand what it is outside of New England, and they don't really know that it's an option. So if you're not from this area and you're a senior in high school and you don't have the looks that you want, right? Like you've worked your entire life, you had goals to possibly play. Again, I'm going to go back to Ivy League, I'm going to go back to Patriot League, whatever level you want to play at. And you're a senior and you're not getting what you want. We are the choice to not settle. And that's a big thing for me. I talk to my daughter about it all the time. I'm like, don't settle. If this is what you want, try to go get it, and we'll figure out a way to do that. St. Andrews is a place where you can do that. So if you're, a junior or a senior, you're injured, you need an additional class, you're not getting recruited at the level that you think, and another year is going to help you. We're that program, we're that school that can get you there, especially with how we travel, the exposure tournaments that we attend. I think they get pretty good coaching here. We have a lot of respect from college coaches because they know when they come out of this program, they're going to be more college ready than most in terms of basketball IQ, understanding what college coaches want from you. I think we're able to do that. And I think we do that pretty well. So it's a great option for anyone. Now, you don't have to be from New England. We've had players this year on our team. We have a player from Canada. We have 2 players from Germany. We have a player from Spain. We have a player from New York. So 5 of our 9 players are from outside of New England. The other 4 are from Rhode Island. So that's kind of been our split since I've been here. The Rhode Island players mostly are day students. Obviously, the international and the ones who live farther away, they're in the dorms.
I love it. Now, tell me this, your coaching experience, both at the professional ranks, the D1 ranks, the USA basketball ranks,
Yeah.
like what do you take from that you incorporate now into your team?
So I think most recently the biggest thing I've learned in terms of USA basketball and having the opportunity to coach these super high level basketball players, the difference for me is like when you coach a player like Haley Van Lith or Cameron Brink and these other high level like collegiate / WNBA players, their will to win, their competitive nature, that competitive spirit, is so intense. It like burns off of them when you're around them. And if you have that desire to compete the way that they do, it's only natural that their preparation and how they work in practice and all the things they do off the court mirror that intensity and their desire to win. And that's the one thing that has struck me that I try to talk to my players about. And maybe they were like that when they were 15, 16 years old, or maybe they had someone who told them like, hey, Haley, hey, Cam, this is what you need to do. But that sort of like intrinsic, like unstoppable desire to like win, was unbelievable. Like I was able to coach those young women. I think it was 2 summers ago. We were in Canada for like a 3x3 women's series event. And it was an incredible thing to be around and realize that like, that's the level that we can all possibly get to. If we want to compete and enjoy competing and winning, cause they were just like stone cold winners. It was awesome to be around, and I'm trying to instill that into the young women that play for me at St. Andrews.
Gotcha. Now, if a family is looking into the option of reclassifying or not, what advice do you give them?
So for me, I don't force a reclass. The great thing about St. Andrews is if you come here, let's say you're in the class of 26, meaning you're a senior this year, and you come to St. Andrews as a 26, and you don't want to come in as a 27, right? Because maybe as a 26, you'll be seen, you'll get what you want, you can graduate on time, and then you can go, play scholarship level basketball. What we can do here, you can come in and stay in your class. And then if you don't necessarily get what you want and you don't want to settle, we can then post-grad, which is pretty amazing. So a lot of families, particularly families that aren't from the United States, they're uncomfortable with the idea of reclassing. They'd rather keep them in their grade, keep them, with their social age group. And then if it doesn't work out, they can then post-grad. We don't, if someone wants to post-grad, 100%, but I don't force families to do that. I think they need to be comfortable with where they want to put their child. And what's cool about us is that we don't have to force people to do anything. They can come, they can reclass, they can stay in their class, and then they can, if they need a year, they can then post-grad. So they can get what they need by coming here without having to like shift their ideals or like make any major changes to their kids' like educational path.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, for those kids that do post-grad, what does the academic year look like for them?
So it's a legitimate post-grad year. They are in school. The second half of the year, they're in an internship, but they're also able to earn 6 college credits during their post-grad year. So we offer a couple classes through Syracuse University. So they come here, they're in class, they're earning college credits, and in the second half of the year, they are interning in whatever interest or specialty they may want to continue in someday, either as a major or as some sort of employment opportunity. So yeah, the post grad year, it's not just show up and play basketball and take an art class. It's a real year where they're getting real development and again gaining college credit, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's great. I think the college credit thing is great. And
Yeah.
sometimes families need to know this. Those college
Right.
credits will not transfer to a college you choose. But what I tell families is, worst case scenario, if that happens, at least you now know what a college classroom is like, and you're going to be much more
Right.
prepared for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what's your college placement strategy? Like with the transfer portals, with all the other avenues that college coaches are looking at now, are you doing a majority of this? Are you letting the AU team do it? Is it a blend? What do you tell families that ask you about your placement strategy?
It's definitely a blend. I think during the basketball season, the college coaches are coming to the high school coach. During the AAU season, they are predominantly dealing with the AAU coach. It's been wild for me. In the past couple of years, we've had a number of players go Division I, and I have not spoken to some of their college coaches, which is a misstep in my opinion. Don't mean to disparage some college coaches, but I would think you'd want to talk to the high school coach. Not only because, high school basketball is significantly different than AAU basketball. We have to win games. There's a score that matters. And, when it's time and score, you need to be able to do what you're being asked to do. I don't think that's necessarily the case with AAU. I also think that high school basketball, specifically at the NEPSAC level, mirrors college basketball a lot more. There is structure in the game. There are things that you have to be able to do in a competitive environment that you're not necessarily asked to do in AAU. So it would make sense to me that a college coach would speak to the high school coach. But really, for me, my experience in the last few years is that college coaches deal with me during our high school season. But once it gets to AAU, the spring and summer, it's the AAU coaches that they communicate with. Fortunately for us, again, in New England, it's a very small area. And with girls basketball, like I know all of those AAU coaches. We have a great rapport. So I'm on the phone with them a lot. So while the college coaches might not be talking to me specifically in our, outside of our season, I am talking to those AAU coaches about where that fit may be. And it's just it's a completely different environment than it was. And the only thing I can compare it to is like how it was when I came out of high school, right? You came out of high school, you were recruited, you were offered an official visit, you took the official visit. Maybe at the end of that official visit, they offered you a scholarship. Then you went home. You thought about it. Or maybe you had your home visit because you also took home visits. And now it's different. It's like, we're going to offer you to express interest.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to recruit you. And I think that's created a lot of issues, not only for the players, but for the parents, where, you've got young players who are not college ready and they're receiving offers. And I think that changes their approach. I think it changes their parents' expectations. Unfortunately, in most situations, it makes them harder to coach.
Yep.
Because now you're taking out a Division I player for someone who doesn't have offers. And it's like, well, what's going on? Why is my Division I kid on the bench when you have other players in the game? And it's kind of a reversal world for me. The other issue is those offers, as I said, to me, they come across more as interest and they go away, but they kind of silently go away. I had a player a few years ago who I thought was an absolute unbelievable talent. She received one offer in the winter. She decided to play the spring and the summer, didn't get any other offers, called up the school and said, hey, I'd like to take the offer. And they said, oh, like, our bad, but, someone else took it. But without even communicating that to her. So she played the entire spring, summer, thinking she was going to get a better deal. She didn't get a better deal. She went back and it's gone, which is fair, but it's only fair if you let that player know that
Yeah.
that offer is contingent upon maybe you offered 25 other players, which is happening in this region. So in terms of, your question was about college placement. It's kind of a wild time because there's, we've got players here who have offers, but they're not necessarily talking to those programs anymore. So are those offers real? And then we came across a situation. There's been a lot of rhetoric. There's been a lot of talk about how the transfer portal is going to affect high school players. And, a high school player that maybe 4 years ago would have had, would have been able to go to get a scholarship to Division I, II. They're now being replaced by seasoned players who are in the portal. But then this year, very late into the summer, I was recruiting a European player who had graduated high school. She was going to come here in post-grad. And then at the last minute, she had these super high level, I'm talking top 10 teams come in. So she ended up going to play for like a top 10 team in the United States, right? As a 25. So
What month was that?
What's that?
What month was that?
Oh gosh, this all transpired right around St. Andrew's graduation. So it was June. It wasn't late summer. It was June. So in June of this year, I thought I had secured this unreal player from Europe. It was signed, sealed, and delivered. I'm telling everybody about it. A week later, she gets a call. She takes the trip. Now she's at a top 10 school in the United States as of 2025.
Yeah.
So this was a June commitment. And I think that's also shifting. So now you have, not only do you have a portal, right? But you also have the opportunity to enter the portal. So you have these Division I schools who they really don't know what their roster is going to look like. So when it comes May and they have 4 roster spots available, right? And some of those high school kids, I don't think this like doom and gloom about the portal is accurate. I think, yes, initially they're going to, some college coaches are going to look into the portal, but then they also have to fill a roster that has lost spots because those kids are in the portal, if that makes any sense. So I think we're going to see a lot of like late commitments now than we hadn't seen before. And I think the November commitment period may be, more sparsely, like you're going to see a lot less signings potentially in November because of everything that's changed. But do I think high school kids are going to be negatively affected by the portal? For me, I'm not sure, but I'm at a school where if you are negatively affected by the portal, we offer that post-grad year. So there's light, if it doesn't work out for you, you can still have that additional year.
Yeah, and a couple of points on what you just said. It's that I call it herpes, right? Because when a kid gets a call or a text from a D1 assistant coach, even if it's one,
right,
from that point on, they think they're D1. You can never kill that dream, whether it's realistic or not. And these families got to know these assistant coaches are calling hundreds of kids, not knowing which ones might take off or not. 2, this whole thing with the transfer portal, in the old days, you remember these, where the open gym period was so important, and a lot of action would happen in the fall. Now we have to let parents know ahead of time about this timing, because if you're doing a post-grad year, if you've reclassed, there's a lot of stress you're feeling now. If you're waiting until April, May, June to do your college commitment,
right,
you have to deal with the brunt of that being the coach. But that's a challenge, and families got to put faith in these prep school coaches that they will get placed. And I've never heard of a kid not getting placed, even with the portal. So you guys are still doing your jobs, but from a family's perspective, it's high stakes. But what I want to ask you is, when a player commits to you, I know you guys have a recruiting meeting at some point, so you can know, do they want to be East Coast, West Coast, big school, small school? Walk me through what your conversation is like with families when you talk to them about their needs and desires.
Well, yeah, I think the first thing I ask is what are your goals? a lot of times the goals don't necessarily match the reality, right? So
Yes.
I think that's a lot of what we have to do as high school coaches, is to sort of like reframe like what's realistic and what's not. And that's a very sensitive conversation to have, because I think it's our job as coaches to tell the truth. But oftentimes that truth isn't absorbed in a very positive way, right? Like we're always going to be on the side of our student athletes. So find out what the ultimate goal is. Figure out how important academics is. Figure out location. Figure out style of play. Because there's some schools that are out there that players want to go to, but it doesn't match what they can do on the court. Like some coaches are really like high IQ, cerebral. They're running emotion offense. And some players are 5-out dribble drive, and that's all they played through AAU. Not a good match, right? Um, other things to take into consideration when having these conversations is like, you may have the offensive ability to play at that level, but do you have the defensive ability, right? It's a cliche now. I'm not big into cliches, but it is important. Like if I play the one at this level, can I guard the one at the next level? Nobody ever wants to talk about that. They always want to talk about, well, I'm Division I. Well, you might be offensively, but can you guard your position? And that's what I hear a lot from college coaches when they come watch our players play, or the ones that have been on the cusp, like in the last 6 years, the ones that are like, they're like, the is always about their defensive ability to guard their position. It's not about their shooting. It's not about their decision making. For the most part, we have high character kids here. So you're going to get the communicators, the good body language, the hard workers. But it's that ability to defend at the next level. So all of these things you need to talk to parents about, because they don't think about that. I probably named like 5 or 6 things that never come up when they're sitting, at dinner with their child, talking about where they want to go. And it's also important to like, I'm a good example. I came out of, small place, public high school, scored a zillion points a game, and I went to Stanford. Like you couldn't go from a bigger jump, like a huge fish in a small pond, to like the biggest pond of all, right? Both academically and athletically. And I had to manage that, which was very difficult. I went out there like, I thought I was like the queen of New England basketball. And I found out right away, like, oh, you're not, right? So you got to figure out too, like, do you want to go to a place and sit and win games? Do you want to go to a lower level and play and be like an integral part of your team? And those are questions that I don't think a lot of parents and players actually, they actually really think about, because they always think that their success now is going to be their success in college, and it's never going to be the same. Yeah, I mean, people talk about the 1%. There are some people, but those are like the, what's the word people say? Like the unicorns, the very rare unicorns are going to go from high school to college and still have that success. Everyone else is not. So I think it's important that you find the academic fit. You figure out how far away you want to be from home, and even small things. Do you want to play for a female coach? You want to play for a male coach? Who have you played for in the past? Have you had all female coaches? Have you had all male coaches? What are you comfortable with? What style? Do you want to play for a coach that is like an over communicator, that sits down with you, that makes you feel like, you're in a family environment? Do you want to play for a coach that just is like transactional? Like if you play well, then you're going to play. If you don't, then you're sitting. Because you get all those different types at the college level. And I find that families are really uniquely like focused on just one thing, and that's that chasing that Division I scholarship, but they're not thinking about all the other components that, like, in 4 years when their daughter graduates from college, like most of them are not going to go play in the WNBA. Most of them are not going to go play in Europe. So are they going to be, what does their life look like at the age of 22, 23? After this whole dream of Division I is over, right? I think that whole piece is missed right now.
I love that you shared all that, Christina, because that is the stuff families do not hear. And you've got to go into that stuff, right? And the thing you said, we use that in prep school too. Go somewhere and be on a great team and sit, go on a smaller level team and play. It's up to you what you want to do, but let us know what you want, right? So it's about communication. But tell me this one. does it matter which class in New England that a girls' team competes in? Soapbox. Go ahead and get on your soapbox. I see you pulling it out.
So I'm going to say yes. And then I'm gonna contradict myself and say no. But the yes is it outweighs the no. I think if you play at the highest level in New England, you have the opportunity to be seen more. I think there is a huge amount of respect for NEPSAC AAA and AA teams. College coaches know the level. They know that this is the closest thing that you're going to get as a high school player to playing in college. We have no bad games. I kind of wish we did. I kind of wish we had some easy games mixed in where we can get that win and, feel good about ourselves. But our schedule is in complete insanity. Every single game we are playing top-notch competition. And whether college coaches are coming to see us, they may be coming to see the team that we're playing against. But that affords our players the opportunity to be seen. So the AAA and AA level in New England, if you play at that level, there's an automatic respect, and not everyone can do it. Everyone thinks they can do it, but not everyone can do it. So I think it does matter the level. Having said that, if you're really good and you go play in Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D, and you're really good is really good. It doesn't matter. Like, colleges are going to find you if you're really good, if you're exceptional. But, if you're not like super exceptional, but you're good and you're playing AAA and AA, you're going to have way more opportunity of being seen. I don't know a lot of college coaches going to watch like lower level NEPSAC games, but I know they're coming to the higher level ones. So that's what I think it does. I think it does matter.
What do you see as the future of prep school basketball?
The future of prep school basketball?
How's it looking? 5 years from now, how's it going to look compared to today?
I think it's going to be even better. I'm from Rhode Island, right? So this is my viewpoint. And anyone from Rhode Island or anyone from Southern New England who is relatively good at basketball, they do not stay playing for their state, their state association. People are reclassing in middle school, and then they may play a year or two, and they're not even doing that anymore. Used to be like play 1 or 2 years of like REBA basketball or MIAA basketball, Massachusetts public school basketball, and then you go prep. People are prepping right away. So all the talent is leaving and they're going to prep schools. And I think that talent is just going to continue to push everybody up. So if you can play basketball, you're going to a prep school right now, especially in this area. And the level just gets higher and higher. And we've seen a huge influx of college coaches, especially this year in NEPSAC AAA and AA, who have left Division I, and now they're coaching at the NEPSAC level.
Yeah.
So we're getting better coaches, and the competition just continues to get steeper and steeper. So I think in 5 years, NEPSAC basketball is going to be the closest thing to college basketball that you're going to see at the non-collegiate level. I can't. It's hard for me to explain to my players. Like, when I was in high school, we got in a yellow bus and we went, 15 minutes down the road. We played a game at 4:00. We played varsity before JV. We got back in the bus. We went home. We do a variety of overnights. We're practicing, sometimes double days. We have strength conditioning. It's not even in the same stratosphere as what like I saw growing up and what the opportunities that they have now at the prep level. And I think it's going to continue to get more professionalized, for lack of a better term. It's just really high level. And in 5 years, I can't imagine it's going to go backwards. It's just going to keep going more and more forward. And we're just going to get, and the more players that we put out, at the collegiate level, like those big time stars, that the NEPSAC league is just, it's going to blow up.
All right, last big question. What does it take to be a D1 guard?
Okay, a D1 guard. Well, I'll go back to what I said earlier. You have to be able to defend your position. So what I've seen as a coach, I've seen that length and athleticism is being highly recruited. That like, if you have length and you're athletic, does that automatically mean that you're going to join a college program and help them win games? No. I think to be a college guard, you have to understand how to play. Like basketball IQ to me is the biggest thing. And if you're a guard, and I say it all the time to the guards that play for me, you can be a good guard, but great guards make other players better. So you have to be able to make the players around you better. And I think that has to be your mindset. You got to be able to move the basketball. You got to be able to space. You got to be able to understand when to screen, when to cut, when to take your shot. Decision making is really, really key. And playing within a structure is hard to do at the high school level. It's hard to get players to do that. But if you want to play at the Division I level as a guard, your desire to make other people better is huge. Your ability to defend your position is huge. You've got to be able to make shots. I think the quality of shooting in general, like we have some great shooters in New England. I'd like to see more shooters. You got to be able to shoot the basketball. And decision making, shot selection. And again, like this is me, maybe this is old school, but like dribbles per possession. When I put on college men's basketball and I watch what's happening on the court, I do not see a player coming down and taking, 18, 19 dribbles and then maybe starting the offense. That doesn't happen. So why do we allow that to happen at the high school level? Watch a women's college basketball game, see how they play, see what they want, see what's allowed, see what the players are doing on the court who are on the court. And that's what you need to do that's how you need to train yourself. But I wish we could just like I wish at the high school level, coaches would watch what college coaches are playing.
Yeah.
Like who they're playing and model like what they want off of, what we're giving our players.
Best player you ever played against?
Oh, this is a good one. I ever played against. People will be surprised by this. Not people from here. So Cindy Blodgett played in Maine. She was an assistant coach at Brown University when I was, in town. And we used to have this thing called the lunch bunch. So every Tuesday, Thursday, we'd all meet at Brown and we'd play at noontime. And I'd have to guard her, right? You're playing with a bunch of guys. So the girls guard the girls, right? She would absolutely cook me. I think she had like 5,000 points. I think she led the Division I in scoring in the early 90s. And like really tiny. If you looked at her, you're like, she can't play. Like way small. She's like 5'7", like maybe 115 pounds. And she was an absolute killer, talking about like that high IQ. And she'd run you around. She'd run you off screens. She's slipping. She's cutting in ways that I'd never seen. She had a release. She had different releases for every different shot. So like, your hands are down. She's up here. All the other times she was just unguardable. And she had a stint in the WNBA, but I think physically she may have been a little bit too small, or perhaps her ability was undervalued at that level, but she was absolutely fantastic. And, I played against some greats. Like I played against Chamique Holdsclaw. I was in college from 96 to 2000. Kate Starbird was an Naismith Player of the Year in 97. And I was tasked with guarding her every day as a freshman. But Cindy Blodgett used to give me fits in ways that other players did not. So that is my unorthodox answer, and I am sticking with it. And I hope she sees it. She was, she's now the head coach at the Lincoln School where I used to coach.
Okay.
So there's a lot of overlap, especially in Rhode Island girls basketball.
Mm-hmm. What about the best player you've coached against at the prep school level?
Ooh, yeah, this is a good one. There are a couple. Caroline Ducharme, who's at UConn right now and hopefully is healthy and is going to have a great year for them. She played at Nobles and coached against her for 1 year. And she was just a dynamic scorer at her size. She would literally shoot the three when she crossed half court, but she could also post you up and she could take it to the basket. So the first time we played them, my strategy was probably what everyone else's strategy was, like, don't let her get the ball. But she was so adept at like cutting back door. And if you stayed on that cut, she would just post you up. It was an exercise in futility, like trying to deny her the basketball, exhausted my best defenders, and then she got whatever she wanted. And so when we played them, an additional 2 times, I told my team, just let her get the ball. Let her get the ball and then stay in front. And then we also tried to force her to play some defense. So we isolated her a few times at the high post to try to get into foul trouble. But she's probably the player that I spent the most time game planning against and like really focused on and trying to figure out ways to slow her down so we could potentially win the game. Other than that, Yuluchi, who is now at Maryland. She was at Duke. She played on 2 different NEPSAC teams. Just an unbelievable, like, physical specimen. She was a guard, but we could not keep her off the boards. It was just impossible. She's probably about 5'9", 5'10", but I don't know how many offensive rebounds she got a game against us. What she did at Duke, she'll probably do the same thing at Maryland. She was tough. And I feel like this is an unfair answer, and I'm not getting enough time to think about all the unbelievable players that I've had the opportunity and the pain to coach against, but those are the 2 that jump out to me.
All right, favorite movie?
The Godfather, the first one.
Okay, last one. What are your hobbies when you're not at St. Andrews or trapezing the world coaching basketball?
Oh, hobbies include all boring stuff. I love to read. Total nerd. It relaxes me a ton. I read a lot of I really should be like a middle-aged man, honestly. I read a lot of crime fiction, a lot of international crime fiction. I do enjoy a good binge watch of again, like British crime shows. What else? I got 2 rescue dogs that I spend a lot of time with, go on lots of walks with them, and geez, I sound incredibly boring, don't I? But that's
No.
pretty much it. There isn't a lot of additional time for hobbies. I could say that my hobby is following around my 16-year-old daughter, which feels like a full-time job, especially she doesn't have a license yet. So I was like, there might be time to get a license.
That's great. Is there anything you want to mention that we didn't touch on?
I wish we talked a little bit more about, the academic experience here at St. Andrews, the small class sizes, the campus itself. I mean, we're on a number of acres. It looks like when you walk around St. Andrews, it looks like a small, like liberal arts New England college. We have the brick buildings. It's atmospheric. It's absolutely beautiful, especially when it's sunny out and in the fall. The campus is big enough that you feel like you're on a campus, but it's small enough that you're not overwhelmed. The community here is outstanding. I think if you were to ask someone what their impression would be or what they would assume a New England prep school is like, they may have idea of what it might look like from movies. But it's not like that. We are extremely diverse in terms of our student body, in terms of in terms of the makeup, not only like socioeconomic, but also of our learners. We have an IB diploma, but we also have like a learning services component at St. Andrews. I just think it is a very, very cool place. Anytime I walk around campus, I'm also seeing it from my eyes, like a public school kid from Providence. Granted, I've had the opportunity to go to some high level schools and travel the world. But I'm still grounded in like where I'm from and like what I did at this age. And when I walk around campus and I see like what my daughter gets to see every day and what her friends get to see and what my team get to see, like they are so lucky. Like my mom was on campus yesterday because we're running a USA basketball open gym, like 3x3 event. And she came to watch it. And then we walked up to the cafeteria and we got brunch. Like who gets brunch? Like who goes to school on a Sunday and gets brunch, right? So she walks in and she's like, what is this? I was like, yeah, we got it was this full spread. And she's like, they do this every week? And I'm like, yeah. And all the players, like my daughter, her friends, they're like, oh, after they're done playing, they're like, oh, we're going to go get brunch. Like, what are you talking about? You got to go get brunch. Like, we didn't have this. You don't go get brunch after you have like a basketball practice. But this is very normal for them. And I just think they should, like, the level of appreciation and the opportunity. It's a fantastic place to be. And whenever I'm here, I don't forget like where I came from and what opportunity I'm able to give student athletes. And I think that's important. But St. Andrews is a fantastic place. If people don't know about it, it's unfortunate, but hopefully this podcast will help them learn more about it. And if they're interested, let us know.
Yeah, how can they reach you if they're interested?
Email, Instagram presence, so you can check us out on Instagram as well as Twitter, and sort of follow what we're doing this fall. But yeah, feel free to reach out. You can inquire directly through admissions, but you can also reach out directly to me once you provide my my personal information.
Perfect. Well, Christina, thanks so much for coming on this podcast today and sharing all your wisdom and your background. We've been trying for years, and I'm so glad we finally connected on this. And I think it was a great one. And I think people are going to learn a lot from this conversation. So thanks so much for tuning in and joining us today.
Hopefully, I got all the information across that people needed to hear. I appreciate the opportunity, Cory.
Yeah, you did great. Well, if you enjoyed this, be sure to subscribe on all the podcasting platforms and our YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe to the newsletter that comes out every month, do so at our website, prepathletics.com. And if you have any interest in the prep school world or any questions, please go to that website to reach out to me. I get back to everyone. And we'll see you again next week on the Prep Athletics Podcast. Take care.